This is the latest edition of Front Up, and I'm Whitey Willauer, and I've got a great guest today, David Sliski.
Yep.
Now, how do I pronounce that?
Sliski.
Sliski. And David, what do you do here in the Island?
I do many things. My primary job is as an astronomer at the Mariah Mitchell Association. I do research, public outreach, teaching, maintenance, and anything that's needed to keep the observatories running at full steam. I also work for Nantucket Community Sailing, helping out Pascal fix boats or install solar panels, and I run around the island doing catering and other things when I have time. So, whatever I have time for, I try to do. So,
what do you do off island? You're here just during the summer, is that right?
I've been here for a year.
Okay.
My 1 year anniversary is a couple days from now. But in the off season, mostly just kept the observatory running. But in October, I'll be taking a job at Harvard.
And what are you going to do at Harvard?
Harvard has 500,000 glass plates, images of the night sky, ranging from the 1860s through the 1970s, maybe into the 1980s. And they want to digitize them and take measurements of every star in every field. And they want to get that done in the next 3 to 4 years. So I'm going to lead the effort at Harvard to scan and to take the measurements of all the stars from all of the different glass plates.
And you're going to stick with that for 3 to 4 years?
I'm going to stick with it for at least a year, and we'll see what happens after a year.
Yeah. Astronomy, they use glass plates, don't they? Because they tend to keep their shape and the distances.
So they not only keep their shape, but they can be kept for a long time. So the plates from the 1860s are still scientifically valid. We can still do the same measurements now as we would have more than 100 years ago. Moreover, they gave us a larger medium. You couldn't do film that was flexible over that large of a surface. And while glass plates are positives, unlike where like 35 millimeter film are negatives.
Yeah.
So the brighter the star, the blacker the dot is.
So you're going to do that. Now tell me a little bit about all of the other things you're doing on the island here.
My dad did a transatlantic when he was in college. So when I was growing up, he was always interested in sailing and tried to get me on as many sailboats as possible. So that naturally led me to the Nantucket Yacht Club, and I try to go sailing there as many times as I can. I've been on the IODs and the Indians as much as I can this summer. And in the off season where I had some extra time, I talked to Diana Brown, and she gave me a job kind of doing whatever extra help was needed around the office or around the shop. So that's been a lot of fun. They've been absolutely terrific to me. It's been a pleasure to work with them. And then I try to do as many of the fun events on the island as possible, so that when the film festival rolled through, I volunteered and worked there as much as I could, and I ended up stepping behind the bar one evening and helped serve during one of their events, and was picked up by a catering service for the remainder of the summer, and ended up doing a couple of events for like the Carly Simon brunch or the Nantucket Race Week, a couple of events for them. So it's been a pleasure to work with so many different people and meet so many different people, and that this event culminated with working with Panerai during Race Week. I got to help chauffeur them around and actually got to eat lunch with them a couple of times. An absolutely fantastic group of people, remarkable organization, and it just to learn about so many different areas, so many different disciplines in such a short time period on Nantucket has been very special.
That's great. That's great. Now tell me, where are you going to go? I mean, where have you been before you got here?
In high school, I started going to lectures at Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. So they had free lectures on the third Thursday of the month, and that's got me interested in astronomy. So I applied to undergraduate at UMass Amherst, and after my freshman year, I had an internship here. After my sophomore year, I was a teacher at a science and technology camp in Brookline at the Dexter Southfield School. And after my summer program, I flew on a NASA and ESA mission out of Tahiti to image the reentry of ESA's largest spacecraft, the ATV-1. The data that we got from the reentry helped make the models for the next generation spacecraft or anything else that ESA or NASA will launch in the near future. After that, I spent a summer in Australia working on gravitational wave detection. And then after my senior year, I went a little bit astray and worked with a patent attorney to attempt to understand medical physics and the medical profession and radiation therapy.
Now, how far did you get in trying to detect gravitational waves?
We achieved a new landmark for sensitivity.
Yeah.
In certain frequency ranges, we can measure the change in distance to 10 to the minus 17 meters. To give you a scale, the distance between an electron and a proton is 10 to the minus 10 meters. The size of a proton is 10 to the minus 13. So we did 4 orders of magnitude better than that over a 4-kilometer long meter stick, and that wasn't good enough. So last October, they took the whole thing down and are rebuilding it, and they're going to do another order of magnitude better. And so I was working on different features, some of the laser technology. And since these measurements are so precise, any environmental effect, like lightning, earthquakes, cars driving by, are sensitive in the instrument. So my senior thesis was working with the magnetometers to deal with any electrical disturbances in the area and to veto any event that might look like a gravitational wave, but actually was just an artifact on Earth. So it was an unbelievably exciting project, and I think that that will take us to the next generation. The next revolution in science is within the next decade. When I interviewed at MIT and Harvard before I applied to undergraduate, one of the guy who actually started this program, Ray Weiss, told me, he said if he was going to be anywhere right now as an 18, 19-year-old, physics and astronomy was the place to be, because that next great revolution, the same thing that happened with Galileo, Copernicus, the same thing that happened with Einstein, we're on the brink of that right now. So it's a very exciting place to be. And it was unbelievable to be there as an undergraduate and to be in so many different, be at MIT, be in Australia, be at UMass. I got to travel to both observatories, one in Hanford, Washington, eastern part of the state, one in Livingston, Louisiana. And it was really, really exciting to sit on the brink of technology, and hopefully not too many years down the road, I'll be looking back and saying I was there at the beginning. So it's very, very, very exciting times right now in those fields.
And working at Harvard Smithsonian, it put you in touch with the leading edge of
absolutely. The network, the amount of projects that Harvard's working on, both looking at the past and doing the retrospective study, what I'm working with the plates, looking forward into the future, working on exoplanets, that they're discovering hundreds of them a year now with the Kepler satellite. There's a completely new revolution there. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we only knew of a couple hundred planets around other stars. Now we know of thousands.
Is there life out there?
Life in the sense of a microbe or some other living organism, I personally believe in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we'll find intelligent life. I think there's a strong possibility of that. Whether or not that life exists at the same time that we exist, that's probably a smaller possibility. But actually, that was the first project that I worked on when I was in middle school. I got involved with a project called optical SETI, which was looking for flashes of light on the order of a nanosecond or a microsecond that would outshine our sun by a factor of 1,000, kind of like a light beacon going SOS, or some sort of flashes in the nighttime sky. So that was the first project that I worked on with Harvard, and that got me captivated and asking a lot of questions.
Now, are you going to be an astronomer? Is that where you're headed, to being an astronomer, or have you got other ideas in mind?
So I love the concept of research, and it's what keeps me going, the pleasure of finding things out, as Feynman would say. But I see one of the greatest needs right now in science is upper level management. Specifically, if you look at some of the space telescopes, the James Webb Space Telescope had a budget of about $4 billion, and it's about $1.9 billion over budget. I don't know of all of the reasons for that, but I'm sure there was a better way to do that. And I do very well in project management, and that's exciting to be involved in the research, but to also be solving the problems, to have a human interface, and to make things more efficient. So I'm not quite sure which direction I'm going, the more project management or just straight research. I'm trying to figure out a way if I can combine the two. But I don't quite know how to do that yet. So that's my search for the next year while at Harvard, is to try to answer that question and pick.
Are project managers born, or is it learned?
I think both.
Yeah.
I think my father is a physicist, and both of my grandfathers were. And my one grandfather worked at MIT, and the other one started his own companies, ran his own companies. My dad started and has run his own companies. And I've seen them do absolutely wonderful things, but the thing that they lack is that little management end at the end. They're absolutely brilliant. They could design anything. One of my grandfathers served as president for four different presidents through the Apollo missions. Absolutely brilliant men. But when it came down to the bottom line, that's kind of where they struggled. And I've met so many brilliant people that if you simply could take that responsibility off their hands so they could just be brilliant and do what they do best, how much better things would turn out. And having grown up and seen so many people do that and seeing and learning how to make them better, I think that's a role that I could potentially fill. And that's very exciting. The other side note is that I would like to return to Nantucket at some point, and I'm not quite sure I can do that on an academic budget. And I love the island so much that I want to be able to return when I'm 45 or 50 and have a boat and sail around the harbor on my weekends. And I don't quite know how to fit that into an academic schedule or budget.
Oh, you can probably figure that out as you
yeah, absolutely. But it's this island has been so kind to me in so many different ways that I want to find a way to return someday.
Well, that's wonderful to hear.